Most people lose control of their life in moments that last only seconds. A comment, a look, a provocation, a wave of emotion they react to without thinking. And in those moments, they give their power away. Not because they are weak, but because they were never taught the strength of not reacting. The world will always try to pull you into noise. Opinions, drama, disrespect, chaos. But the most dangerous trap is believing you must respond to everything. True power is not loud. It does not rush. It observes, chooses, and stays calm while others lose control. This audiobook is about mastering that discipline, learning how silence protects you, how emotional control sharpens your mind, and why the person who reacts less always wins more. Because when you stop reacting, you stop being controlled, and that is where real power begins. Chapter 1. Why reaction is the fastest way to lose power. Reaction is the fastest way to lose power because it hands control to whatever triggered you. Philosophy teaches that power belongs to the one who chooses, not the one who responds automatically. When you react instantly, you are no longer acting from intention but from impulse. Your emotions decide for you. A single comment, a gesture, or a tone hijacks your behavior. In that moment, your inner authority disappears. You may feel justified, expressive, or honest, but underneath, something crucial has happened. You surrendered command. Power is never lost through silence. It is lost through uncontrolled expression. Reaction feels natural, but it is expensive. It costs clarity, dignity, and leverage. The more quickly you react, the less time you give wisdom to enter. And without wisdom, action becomes noise. Reaction weakens you because it collapses time. Philosophy teaches that strength lives in pause. When you react, there is no pause, only momentum. Momentum without direction is dangerous. You speak before thinking, act before assessing, and decide before understanding. This compression of time makes small situations feel large and manageable problems feel threatening. Reaction magnifies emotion and shrinks perspective. You see only what provoked you, not the full context. Power requires distance. Distance allows choice. Reaction removes distance, trapping you inside the moment. Inside the moment, emotion dominates reason. And wherever emotion rules without awareness, power cannot survive. Reaction also exposes you. Philosophy reminds us that what is uncontrolled reveals itself too easily. When you react, you show exactly where you are vulnerable. People learn which words provoke you, which topics disturb you, which insecurities you carry. This information becomes leverage not in your favor, but against you. Silence conceals strength. Reaction advertises weakness. Even when your reaction feels righteous, it communicates sensitivity. Those who remain calm reveal nothing. Those who react reveal everything. Power lies in being unreadable, not expressive. The person who reacts first loses the strategic advantage. Another reason reaction drains power is that it creates regret. Philosophy teaches that regret follows actions taken without reflection. When you react, you often clean up afterward, apologizing, explaining, justifying, or wishing you had stayed silent. This mental backtracking wastes energy. Energy spent on regret cannot be used for progress. Power requires forward motion. Reaction pulls you backward into emotional repair. The cost is invisible but constant. Each reactive moment chips away at confidence and self-trust. Over time, you begin doubting your ability to stay composed. That doubt weakens inner authority. Reaction also ties your emotional state to external forces. Philosophy teaches that freedom begins when your inner state is not controlled by outer events. When you react, you allow others to decide how you feel. Their words become commands. Their behavior becomes a switch. This is not strength, it is dependency. Power is independence of mind. The one who reacts lives at the mercy of stimuli. The one who pauses chooses their internal response. That choice is freedom, and freedom is power in its purest form. Reaction narrows intelligence. Philosophy teaches that clear thinking requires emotional regulation. When emotion spikes, intelligence drops. You miss nuance, you misinterpret intent. You exaggerate threats. Reaction clouds judgment. Decisions made in that state are rarely wise. Power depends on seeing clearly. The calmer you are, the more you see. Reaction blinds. Silence sharpens. The person who waits understands more than the person who explodes. Reaction also damages credibility. Philosophy teaches that authority is associated with steadiness. People trust those who are composed under pressure. When you react impulsively, others see unpredictability. Unpredictability weakens respect. Even when your reaction is understandable, it reduces perceived leadership. Leaders are measured by how they handle provocation. The one who reacts emotionally is seen as equal to the chaos. The one who stays calm rises above it. Power is elevation, not engagement. Another hidden cost of reaction is escalation. Philosophy shows that reaction feeds reaction. When you react emotionally, you invite further conflict. Situations grow instead of dissolve. Silence, when intentional, de-escalates. It removes fuel. Fire cannot burn without oxygen. Reaction supplies oxygen. Power is knowing when not to feed the fire. The strongest move is often restraint. Reaction also fragments identity. Philosophy teaches that repeated impulsive behavior creates inconsistency. One moment calm, next moment explosive. This inconsistency erodes self-image. You stop trusting yourself to remain grounded. Power requires internal consistency. Consistency builds confidence. Reaction destroys it. Each uncontrolled moment weakens the bond between intention and behavior. Reaction keeps you trapped in ego. Philosophy teaches that ego seeks to defend, prove, and dominate. Reaction is ego's favorite tool. Silence belongs to awareness. Awareness sees beyond insult, beyond provocation, beyond the need to win. Ego reacts. Awareness chooses. Power grows as ego shrinks. Reaction also wastes opportunity. Philosophy teaches that every situation contains information. When you react, you miss it. You focus on expression, not observation. Observation reveals patterns. Patterns reveal leverage. The silent observer learns while the reactive participant exhausts themselves. Power belongs to the one who gathers information while others lose composure. Reaction shortens vision. Philosophy teaches that long-term thinking requires emotional distance. Reaction locks you into short-term satisfaction, releasing emotion now at the cost of advantage later. Power favors patience. Patience delays gratification for greater control. Reaction trades long-term strength for momentary relief. That trade is never worth it. Reaction reinforces weakness through habit. Philosophy teaches that what you practice becomes automatic. Each reactive moment strengthens the habit of impulsiveness. Over time, reaction becomes identity. Identity shapes destiny. Power fades not in one moment, but through repetition. Silence practiced consistently becomes strength embodied. Reaction also creates noise within. Philosophy teaches that inner noise disrupts clarity. Emotional outbursts echo internally long after the moment passes. Silence creates mental stillness. Stillness is where strategic thought emerges. Power grows in quiet minds, not noisy ones. Ultimately, reaction is the fastest way to lose power because it removes choice. Philosophy teaches that choice is the essence of control. Where there is no choice, there is no power. Reaction eliminates choice. Pause restores it. The one who can pause owns themselves, and the one who owns themselves cannot be controlled. Chapter 2. Emotional triggers and how they control you. Emotional triggers control you because they operate faster than conscious thought. Philosophy teaches that the mind has layers, and triggers bypass the thinking layer entirely. A word, a tone, a memory, or a familiar pattern activates stored emotion before logic can intervene. In that moment, you are no longer responding to the present, you are reliving the past. Old wounds, unmet needs, and unresolved experiences surface instantly. The body reacts as if danger is real, even when it is not. This is how control is lost. Triggers are not about what is happening now. They are about what once hurt you and was never fully processed. Until understood, they run quietly in the background, waiting for the right stimulus to take over. Triggers control you by hijacking identity. Philosophy teaches that when emotion spikes, awareness narrows. You forget who you intended to be and become who the trigger demands. Calm becomes anger. Confidence becomes defensiveness. Dignity becomes impulse. In those moments, you are not choosing behavior. Behavior is choosing you. This loss of authorship is subtle but powerful. You may believe you are expressing yourself, but in reality, you are being expressed through. The trigger decides your tone, your words, and your actions. Power disappears the moment identity becomes reactive rather than intentional. Emotional triggers also gain control through familiarity. Philosophy explains that the mind clings to what it knows, even when it is harmful. Triggers are familiar emotional states: anger, insecurity, jealousy, fear. Because they have been experienced repeatedly, the mind slips into them effortlessly. This ease creates illusion. You think, "This is just how I am," when in truth, it is a conditioned response. Conditioning feels natural. Awareness feels foreign. Until awareness is trained, triggers dominate simply because they are practiced more often than calm. What you repeat becomes automatic. Automatic reactions are the opposite of freedom. Triggers control you by collapsing time. Philosophy teaches that emotional memory does not follow chronological order. When triggered, the past becomes present. A small comment feels as painful as an old betrayal. A minor criticism feels like a personal attack. The nervous system cannot distinguish between memory and reality in that instant. This distortion magnifies reactions. You respond with intensity that does not match the situation. Others see overreaction, but inside, the pain feels justified. This mismatch creates confusion and regret. Power requires proportion. Triggers destroy proportion by dragging old pain into new moments. Another way triggers gain control is through unmet validation. Philosophy teaches that what seeks validation externally remains vulnerable internally. If your worth depends on approval, disrespect becomes unbearable. If your identity depends on recognition, being ignored becomes painful. Triggers often attach to areas where self-worth is fragile. They expose dependency. The moment validation is threatened, emotion surges. Control shifts outward. Those who can disturb you can command you. Triggers reveal where power has been outsourced. Triggers also control behavior through ego defense. Philosophy teaches that ego reacts to protect self-image. When something threatens how you see yourself, intelligence, strength, morality, status, ego attacks or withdraws. This reaction feels personal, urgent, and righteous. But ego defense is blind. It does not seek truth. It seeks protection. In defending image, it sacrifices wisdom. Triggers use ego as an entry point. The more rigid the self-image, the more powerful the trigger. Flexibility weakens triggers, rigidity feeds them. Emotional triggers control you by dictating language. Philosophy teaches that words shape reality. When triggered, language becomes absolute and exaggerated. You say, always, never, everyone, nothing. These words intensify emotion and lock perception. Once language hardens, perspective disappears. You speak from emotion, not awareness. Words spoken in that state cannot be taken back. They shape relationships and self-image long after the moment passes. Triggers control not just emotion, but narrative. Triggers also gain power through avoidance. Philosophy teaches that what is avoided grows stronger. Many people avoid looking at their triggers because it is uncomfortable. They justify reactions, blame others, or minimize impact. This avoidance prevents integration. Unintegrated emotion remains volatile. Each avoided trigger becomes a future ambush. Power is lost not because triggers exist, but because they remain unconscious. Conscious triggers lose force. Unconscious ones rule silently. Another way triggers control you is by draining energy. Philosophy teaches that emotional reactions consume immense mental resources. After reacting, you feel tired, scattered, and unsettled. This exhaustion reduces self-regulation in future moments. The weaker the mind becomes, the easier triggers activate. A cycle forms. Reaction leads to fatigue. Fatigue leads to more reaction. Triggers thrive in depleted minds. Rested awareness resists them. Triggers also distort interpretation. Philosophy teaches that perception is shaped by inner state. When triggered, you assume hostile intent. Neutral actions feel offensive. Silence feels rejection. This misinterpretation escalates emotion unnecessarily. You fight threats that are not there. Power requires accurate perception. Triggers replace accuracy with assumption. Assumption fuels conflict. Conflict feeds triggers further. Emotional triggers control you by making others unpredictable rulers of your state. Philosophy teaches that freedom begins when inner peace is self-generated. When triggers dominate, peace becomes conditional. Anyone can disrupt you, a stranger, a message, a memory. This fragility is exhausting. True strength is emotional sovereignty. Triggers represent areas where sovereignty has not yet been reclaimed. Triggers also create inconsistency. Philosophy teaches that strength is stable presence. Triggered individuals are calm one moment and explosive the next. This unpredictability erodes self-trust and external respect. Others learn to walk carefully around you or provoke you intentionally. Either way, control is lost. Awareness restores consistency. Consistency restores power. Another hidden effect of triggers is regret. Philosophy teaches that regret follows actions taken without awareness. Triggered reactions often require repair apologies, explanations, justifications. This repair drains confidence. Over time, you begin doubting your ability to stay composed. That doubt becomes another trigger. The loop tightens. Breaking it requires understanding, not suppression. Triggers also reveal emotional wounds. Philosophy teaches that triggers are messengers, not enemies. They point to unresolved pain. Ignoring them does not create strength. Understanding them does. When you examine what triggers you and why, power returns. The trigger loses mystery. Without mystery, it loses force. Ultimately, emotional triggers control you because they remove choice. Philosophy teaches that choice is the essence of power. Triggers erase the pause between stimulus and response. In that erased space, freedom disappears. Mastery begins when the pause is restored. When you can feel the trigger without obeying it, control returns to where it belongs within you. Chapter 3. The difference between response and reaction. The difference between response and reaction is the difference between awareness and impulse. Philosophy teaches that reaction happens to you, while response happens through you. A reaction is automatic. It erupts before thought has time to enter. A response is intentional. It passes through awareness, judgment, and choice. When you react, you are driven by emotion stored from the past. When you respond, you act from clarity in the present. This distinction determines whether you remain in control or surrender it. Power exists only where choice exists. Reaction removes choice. Response restores it. Reaction is rooted in conditioning. Philosophy teaches that repeated emotional patterns become reflexes. When someone presses a familiar emotional button, the body responds instantly. Heart rate rises, muscles tense, words spill out. This happens without permission. Response interrupts this chain. It inserts a pause between stimulus and action. That pause is not weakness, it is strength. In that pause, you regain authorship. You decide how to act instead of being forced into action. Reaction is fast but blind. Response is slower but precise. Another key difference lies in intention. Philosophy teaches that reaction seeks relief, while response seeks resolution. When you react, you want the discomfort to end immediately. You speak, argue, or withdraw to release tension. The goal is emotional discharge. Response aims higher. It considers outcome, consequence, and alignment. It asks, what serves me best long-term? Relief is temporary. Resolution is lasting. Reaction satisfies emotion. Response protects direction. Direction is where power lives. Reaction collapses perspective. Philosophy teaches that emotion narrows vision. In reaction, you see only what triggered you. Context disappears. Nuance vanishes. Everything feels urgent and personal. Response expands perspective. It sees the full picture: timing, intent, consequence, and leverage. This expanded view allows smarter action. Reaction traps you inside the moment. Response places you above it. Elevation is authority. Engagement without perspective is weakness. Reaction exposes you. Philosophy teaches that what is uncontrolled reveals inner state. When you react, others learn exactly where you are sensitive. They see what disturbs you and how easily. This exposure gives them power. Response conceals vulnerability. It reveals nothing unnecessary. Silence or measured words keep your inner world protected. Power belongs to the one who reveals least while understanding most. Reaction overshares. Response withholds wisely. Reaction also creates regret. Philosophy teaches that regret follows actions taken without reflection. After reacting, you replay the moment, wishing you had stayed calm. This mental replay drains energy. Response rarely produces regret because it aligns action with values. Even if the outcome is imperfect, you trust the process. Self-trust is preserved. Reaction weakens self-trust. Response strengthens it. Another difference is emotional ownership. Philosophy teaches that reaction gives ownership of emotion to others. They provoke, and you obey. Response reclaims ownership. You feel emotion, but you decide how to express it. Feeling without obeying is mastery. Obeying emotion is surrender. Reaction obeys. Response governs. Governance is power. Reaction escalates conflict. Philosophy teaches that emotion feeds emotion. One reaction invites another. Situations grow instead of dissolve. Response de-escalates. Calm slows chaos. Silence removes fuel. You are no longer part of the emotional loop. Loops drain energy. Exiting the loop restores control. The strongest position is often outside the exchange, not inside it. Reaction shortens time horizon. Philosophy teaches that impulsive action favors short-term satisfaction over long-term advantage. Response considers timing. Timing determines impact. Speaking at the wrong time weakens even correct words. Silence at the right time amplifies presence. Reaction ignores timing. Response respects it. Those who master timing control outcomes without force. Reaction keeps you trapped in ego. Philosophy teaches that ego needs to defend, prove, and dominate. Reaction is ego-driven. It seeks to win immediately. Response transcends ego. It is guided by awareness, not image. When ego is quiet, intelligence leads. Intelligence chooses battles carefully. Reaction fights everything. Response chooses selectively. Selectivity preserves strength. Reaction fragments identity. Philosophy teaches that inconsistent behavior erodes inner stability. One moment composed, next moment explosive. This inconsistency weakens confidence. Response builds consistency. Consistency builds identity. Identity rooted in calm becomes unshakable. Reaction creates unpredictability. Unpredictability invites disrespect. Reaction also clouds language. Philosophy teaches that words spoken in emotion are rarely accurate. They exaggerate, accuse, and distort. Response refines language. It chooses words deliberately or chooses silence. Precision replaces drama. Precision commands respect. Drama invites conflict. Reaction dramatizes. Response clarifies. Reaction drains energy. Philosophy teaches that emotional outbursts exhaust the nervous system. After reacting, you feel scattered and depleted. Response conserves energy. Calm action costs less internally. Energy conserved becomes focus. Focus strengthens execution. Reaction wastes power. Response preserves it. Another difference lies in learning. Philosophy teaches that reaction prevents insight. You are too busy expressing to observe. Response observes while others react. Observation reveals patterns. Patterns create leverage. Leverage multiplies power. Reaction misses information. Response gathers it. Reaction reinforces weakness through habit. Philosophy teaches that repeated behavior becomes identity. Each reaction strengthens impulsiveness. Each response strengthens discipline. Discipline compounds quietly. Over time, the person who responds becomes composed by default. The person who reacts becomes predictable. Predictability is vulnerability. Ultimately, the difference between response and reaction is the difference between being ruled and ruling yourself. Philosophy teaches that self-mastery begins where impulse ends. Reaction ends mastery. Response begins it. The one who responds owns the moment. The one who reacts is owned by it. Chapter 4. Silence as a form of strength. Silence is a form of strength because it refuses to be dragged into chaos. Philosophy teaches that power is not proven through noise, but through restraint. When others provoke, demand, or accuse, silence interrupts their expectation. It creates uncertainty where they wanted reaction. This uncertainty shifts control. The one who speaks impulsively reveals position. The one who stays silent observes. Observation gathers information. Information creates advantage. Silence is not absence. It is presence without exposure. It allows you to remain centered while others unravel. In moments of tension, silence becomes a shield. It protects dignity, clarity, and leverage. Strength is not measured by how loudly you respond, but by how calmly you can remain unmoved. Silence is strong because it creates space between stimulus and action. Philosophy teaches that space is where wisdom enters. When you do not speak immediately, you give your mind time to settle. Emotions slow, perspective widens. What felt urgent loses intensity. In that space, you regain choice. Silence prevents you from saying what you will later regret. It allows responses to mature instead of erupt. This maturity is perceived instinctively by others. They feel your steadiness even without words. Calm energy communicates authority more powerfully than explanation ever could. Silence preserves power by protecting timing. Another reason silence is strength is that it conceals vulnerability. Philosophy teaches that what is unspoken cannot be used against you. When you speak emotionally, you reveal inner states, insecurity, anger, fear. These revelations become entry points for manipulation. Silence closes those doors. It keeps your inner world private. Privacy is power. The less others know about what disturbs you, the less control they have over you. Silence allows you to feel without advertising. Feeling privately while acting calmly is advanced self-mastery. Silence also disrupts provocation. Philosophy teaches that provocation needs reaction to survive. When someone seeks to provoke you, they are seeking energy. Silence starves them. Without feedback, their effort collapses. This does not escalate conflict, it dissolves it. Silence refuses to play the game. Games only exist when both sides participate. Walking away mentally while remaining present physically is strength. It signals confidence. It shows you do not need to defend yourself to feel secure. Security does not argue. Silence strengthens perception. Philosophy teaches that when you are not speaking, you are listening. Listening reveals tone, intent, and inconsistency. People reveal themselves fully when they are not interrupted. They expose motivations, insecurities, and agendas through continued speech. Silence becomes a mirror. While others fill the space, you gather insight. Insight sharpens judgment. Judgment guides action. Action informed by silence is precise. Precision is power. Silence also builds emotional regulation. Philosophy teaches that restraint trains the nervous system. Each time you choose silence over reaction, you teach your body that calm is possible under pressure. Over time, this calm becomes automatic. Emotional spikes soften faster. Recovery improves. You become harder to destabilize. This resilience is quiet but formidable. It does not seek recognition. It simply endures. Endurance without noise is strength. Another dimension of silence is dignity. Philosophy teaches that dignity is maintained through composure. Loud defense often signals insecurity. Silence signals self-assurance. You do not rush to explain or justify because you trust your position. This trust radiates outward. Others sense it. Respect follows naturally. Silence does not beg for respect. It assumes it. Assumption backed by calm presence becomes reality. Silence protects relationships. Philosophy teaches that words spoken in emotion damage bonds unnecessarily. Silence allows emotion to pass before communication begins. When you speak later, you speak with clarity rather than heat. This preserves connection while maintaining boundaries. Silence used wisely prevents wounds that words cannot heal. It keeps conversations constructive instead of destructive. Strength is not winning arguments, it is preserving what matters without losing yourself. Silence also reinforces self-trust. Philosophy teaches that each act of restraint strengthens confidence. When you remain silent, despite provocation, you prove to yourself that you are in control. This proof accumulates. Over time, you stop fearing emotional situations because you trust your ability to handle them. Self-trust is internal authority. Authority does not shout, it stands. Silence neutralizes ego. Philosophy teaches that ego demands expression. It wants to be seen, heard, and validated. Silence denies ego its fuel. When ego quiets, awareness leads. Awareness sees beyond insult and praise alike. From awareness, action becomes strategic. Strategy outlasts impulse. Silence keeps ego from sabotaging long-term goals for short-term relief. Another strength of silence is flexibility. Philosophy teaches that silence keeps options open. Once words are spoken, paths narrow. Silence delays commitment. It allows you to assess, adapt, and choose the best moment. Timing determines impact. Silence gives you control over timing. Control over timing is leverage. Silence also reduces mental noise. Philosophy teaches that inner quiet enhances clarity. When you stop reacting verbally, thoughts slow. The mind becomes orderly. Order supports insight. Insight improves decisions. Better decisions create better outcomes. Silence is not emptiness. It is alignment. Silence teaches others how to treat you. Philosophy teaches that boundaries are communicated through behavior. When you do not engage in disrespect, you signal standards. People adjust or remove themselves. Either outcome restores balance. Silence enforces boundaries without confrontation. It is firm without aggression. This firmness commands respect quietly. Silence is strength because it conserves energy. Philosophy teaches that energy wasted on unnecessary conflict cannot be recovered. Silence preserves that energy for what truly matters. Focus sharpens. Purpose strengthens. You move forward without dragging emotional residue behind you. Momentum builds, strength compounds. Ultimately, silence is strength because it keeps power where it belongs within you. Philosophy teaches that power leaks through impulsive speech and reactive behavior. Silence seals those leaks. It allows you to move through the world untouched by unnecessary noise. While others exhaust themselves explaining, defending, and reacting, you remain grounded, clear, and in control. Chapter 5. How not reacting builds respect. Not reacting builds respect because it signals inner control. Philosophy teaches that people instinctively respect those who govern themselves. When someone provokes you and you remain calm, observers recognize discipline. Discipline suggests strength. Strength commands respect. Not reacting shows that your emotions do not rule you. It tells others that you choose your behavior deliberately. This choice creates distance between impulse and action, and that distance is felt immediately. People may not consciously analyze it, but they sense it. Calm presence under pressure feels authoritative. Authority earned through composure is more powerful than authority demanded through words. Respect grows when unpredictability disappears. Philosophy teaches that consistency builds trust. Reactive individuals are unpredictable. One moment calm, the next explosive. This instability makes others cautious, not respectful. When you do not react, your behavior becomes steady. Steadiness creates safety. Safety allows trust. Trust becomes respect. People relax around those who are emotionally stable because they know what to expect. This reliability elevates your presence. Others begin to weigh their words more carefully around you, not because you demanded it, but because your calm sets a standard. Not reacting also builds respect because it removes desperation. Philosophy teaches that emotional urgency signals dependence. When you react immediately, you appear invested in approval, dominance, or validation. This investment weakens position. Not reacting communicates independence. Independence suggests abundance of inner resources. Those who are not desperate for control or recognition appear powerful. Power attracts respect naturally. People respect those who do not need to prove themselves in every moment. Another reason not reacting builds respect is that it shows confidence without arrogance. Philosophy teaches that true confidence does not announce itself. It is quiet, grounded, and unthreatened. When you stay calm during provocation, you demonstrate belief in your own worth. You do not rush to defend or justify. This lack of defensiveness is interpreted as confidence. Confidence without hostility is rare. Rarity increases value. Value increases respect. Not reacting also elevates communication. Philosophy teaches that measured response carries more weight than emotional expression. When you speak less and choose words carefully, your words gain gravity. People listen more closely because you do not waste language. Silence between words amplifies meaning. Over time, others associate your speech with intention and thoughtfulness. This association builds credibility. Credibility earns respect. Reaction dilutes credibility by flooding moments with unnecessary emotion. Respect grows when others feel observed rather than opposed. Philosophy teaches that people reveal themselves when you do not interrupt. By not reacting, you allow others to continue speaking. They often expose insecurity, aggression, or inconsistency without resistance. Observers notice this contrast. You appear composed, while others appear reactive. This contrast silently elevates you. Elevation without confrontation is powerful. It earns respect without conflict. Not reacting also protects dignity. Philosophy teaches that dignity is preserved through restraint. Emotional outbursts, even justified ones, can appear undignified. Dignity commands respect because it suggests self-respect. When you do not react impulsively, you show that you value your own composure. Self-respect teaches others how to treat you. They mirror the respect you show yourself. Reaction teaches others that your boundaries are flexible. Silence reinforces firmness. Another way not reacting builds respect is by demonstrating emotional intelligence. Philosophy teaches that emotional intelligence is the ability to feel without being controlled. When you remain calm in tense situations, people recognize emotional maturity. Maturity signals leadership potential. Leaders are expected to handle pressure without collapsing. Not reacting fulfills that expectation. Even without formal authority, emotional intelligence elevates status. Status attracts respect. Not reacting also removes fuel from manipulation. Philosophy teaches that manipulators rely on emotional hooks. When you do not react, their strategy fails. They lose influence. Observers see this clearly. They notice who controls the interaction. Control without force appears powerful. Power exercised quietly commands respect. Manipulation collapses in the presence of calm. Respect also grows when you choose timing. Philosophy teaches that timing determines impact. Immediate reaction often weakens message. Delayed response strengthens it. When you wait, emotions settle and clarity emerges. When you finally speak, your words are precise. Precision carries authority. Authority builds respect. Others learn that when you speak, it matters. Silence prepares impact. Not reacting builds respect by reducing drama. Philosophy teaches that drama signals emotional instability. Stability signals reliability. In environments filled with noise and conflict, the calm individual stands out. Others gravitate toward that calm. They associate it with wisdom and safety. Respect follows attraction. Attraction to stability is natural. Another effect of not reacting is boundary reinforcement. Philosophy teaches that boundaries are communicated through behavior, not argument. When you refuse to engage in disrespect, you set a clear boundary. This boundary is firm without aggression. People either adjust or distance themselves. Both outcomes protect your position. Protection maintains respect. Not reacting also builds internal confidence. Philosophy teaches that confidence grows through proof. Each time you remain calm, you prove to yourself that you are in control. This proof accumulates. Your posture, tone, and presence change subtly. Others feel this shift. Confidence felt is more powerful than confidence spoken. Respect responds to presence, not explanation. Respect grows when you are not easily shaken. Philosophy teaches that resilience impresses more than dominance. When others see that words or situations do not destabilize you, they reassess your strength. You become harder to influence emotionally. Hardness without coldness is respected. You remain human, but unmovable. Not reacting also communicates long-term thinking. Philosophy teaches that impulsive behavior favors short-term relief. Restraint favors long-term advantage. People respect those who act with foresight. Foresight signals wisdom. Wisdom commands respect. Silence often reflects foresight more accurately than speech. Finally, not reacting builds respect because it aligns action with self-mastery. Philosophy teaches that self-mastery is the highest form of power. When you master your reactions, you master yourself. Others recognize this mastery intuitively. They respond with respect because they sense strength that does not need to be proven. Chapter 6. Mastering your emotions in provoking situations. Mastering your emotions in provoking situations begins with recognizing that provocation is a test, not an attack. Philosophy teaches that life constantly tests self-mastery through people, words, and circumstances. Provocation is designed to pull you out of yourself. When someone provokes you, they are attempting to transfer their inner chaos into your nervous system. If you react, the transfer succeeds. If you remain composed, it fails. Mastery starts when you see provocation clearly for what it is, an invitation to lose control. Declining that invitation is power. You do not win by overpowering the other person. You win by staying whole within yourself. Provoking situations overwhelm because emotions surge faster than thought. Philosophy teaches that emotion is energy-seeking expression. When triggered, the body reacts: first tightened chest, shallow breath, racing thoughts. Mastery begins in the body, not the mind. The moment you notice physical sensation, you regain a fraction of control. Awareness interrupts automatic reaction. This interruption is small but decisive. Once awareness is present, choice becomes possible. Without awareness, emotion decides everything. Mastery is built by repeatedly returning to awareness, especially when it feels hardest. Another step in mastering emotion is accepting the emotion without obeying it. Philosophy teaches that resistance intensifies what you resist. When you fight anger, it grows louder. When you suppress it, it leaks elsewhere. Acceptance does not mean expression. It means allowing emotion to exist internally without acting it out. This distinction is critical. You can feel anger without becoming angry behavior. Feeling without acting is emotional strength. It proves you are not owned by your inner weather. Provocation often works because it touches identity. Philosophy teaches that the ego reacts when self-image is threatened. Insults feel personal because ego believes reputation equals survival. Mastery requires loosening this belief. You are not your image, you are awareness behind it. When this separation becomes clear, provocation loses power. Words no longer penetrate identity. They pass through without lodging. Emotional freedom grows where identity loosens. Mastery also requires slowing time internally. Philosophy teaches that calm expands perception. In provoking moments, everything feels urgent. Slowing the breath slows perception. Slower perception allows evaluation. Evaluation prevents impulsive action. This internal slowing creates space where wisdom enters. Mastery is not speed, it is timing. The person who can slow down under pressure controls the moment. Provoking situations also reveal unhealed wounds. Philosophy teaches that triggers point to unresolved pain. When provoked, instead of blaming the provoker, observe what was touched inside you. This observation transforms provocation into information. Information empowers growth. Growth weakens future triggers. Over time, what once provoked you no longer does. Mastery reduces reactivity permanently, not temporarily. Another element of mastery is detachment from outcome. Philosophy teaches that emotional reactions often seek to change others. You want to correct, defend, or dominate. This need creates urgency. Letting go of the need to control outcome restores calm. You focus on your behavior, not their response. Control inward replaces control outward. Inward control is the only reliable power. Mastery also depends on self-talk. Philosophy teaches that inner language shapes emotion. In provoking moments, the mind exaggerates. This is disrespectful. I can't allow this. These narratives inflame emotion. Changing inner language softens intensity. Calm interpretation reduces emotional load. Emotion follows meaning. Adjust meaning, and emotion adjusts naturally. Provocation tests patience. Philosophy teaches that patience is strength stretched over time. Immediate reaction feels satisfying but costly. Delayed response feels uncomfortable but strategic. Patience allows emotion to peak and fall without damage. Each time you practice patience under provocation, endurance grows. Endurance becomes stability. Stability becomes strength. Mastery also involves choosing silence strategically. Philosophy teaches that silence is not avoidance, but containment. When provoked, silence keeps your dignity intact. It prevents escalation. Silence allows you to exit the emotional battlefield unharmed. Choosing silence when provoked is choosing self-respect over ego gratification. Provoking situations often include manipulation. Philosophy teaches that manipulators rely on emotional hooks. When you master your emotions, the hook fails. The manipulator loses leverage. You remain free. Freedom frustrates those who seek control. This frustration confirms your strength. Calm is a form of resistance. Mastery requires repetition. Philosophy teaches that discipline is built through practice, not intention. You will fail sometimes. Failure is not regression, it is training. Each attempt strengthens awareness. Over time, reactions weaken. Responses strengthen. What was once difficult becomes natural. Mastery is gradual and cumulative. Another aspect of mastery is compassion. Philosophy teaches that understanding others' emotional immaturity reduces personal reaction. When you see provocation as pain expressed poorly, anger softens. Compassion does not excuse behavior, but it removes poison from your response. Poison harms the container first. Calm compassion protects you. Mastery also sharpens intuition. Philosophy teaches that emotional clarity enhances perception. When calm, you sense when to speak, leave, or act. Intuition emerges only when emotion quiets. This intuitive timing is powerful. It guides action without force. Provocation tests self-respect. Philosophy teaches that self-respect is choosing behavior aligned with values, not emotion. When provoked, acting with integrity reinforces identity. Identity strengthened becomes unshakable. Unshakable identity resists provocation naturally. Ultimately, mastering your emotions in provoking situations means reclaiming authorship of your behavior. Philosophy teaches that freedom is self-rule. When no one can pull you out of yourself, you are free. When you remain calm while others try to disturb you, you stand in power. Provocation loses its grip, silence becomes strength, and self-mastery becomes your default state. Chapter 7. Why calm people always have the advantage. Calm people always have the advantage because they operate from clarity while others operate from emotion. Philosophy teaches that clarity is the foundation of intelligent action. When situations become tense, emotional minds narrow their focus and rush toward reaction. Calm minds widen perspective and slow down. This widening allows them to see options others miss. Advantage is rarely about strength or speed. It is about seeing clearly when others cannot. Calm creates that clarity. While others are overwhelmed by feeling, calm people remain anchored. From that anchor point, they choose deliberately. Choice is power. Power exercised calmly becomes advantage. Calm people control the pace of interaction. Philosophy teaches that whoever controls pace controls outcome. Emotional people rush. They speak too quickly, decide too soon, and reveal too much. Calm people do the opposite. They pause. They let moments breathe. This pause unsettles reactive individuals who expect immediate engagement. In that unsettled space, calm people gain leverage. They are not hurried into mistakes. They are not pushed off balance. They decide when and how to move. Timing, not force, determines influence. Calm masters timing. Another advantage of calm is superior judgment. Philosophy teaches that emotion distorts perception. Anger exaggerates threat. Fear invents danger. Excitement clouds risk. Calm clears distortion. When calm, you evaluate facts instead of stories. You separate what happened from what you feel about it. This separation leads to better decisions. Better decisions compound over time. Compounding creates dominance that looks effortless from the outside. Calm people are not luckier, they are clearer. Calm people also have the advantage of credibility. Philosophy teaches that steadiness inspires trust. When someone remains composed under pressure, others assume competence. Even without evidence, calm presence signals reliability. People listen more carefully, they follow more willingly. Emotional volatility weakens credibility because it suggests instability. Calm suggests control. Control invites respect. Respect creates influence. Influence is advantage. Calm people are harder to manipulate. Philosophy teaches that manipulation relies on emotional hooks. Guilt, fear, anger, urgency. These are tools used to control behavior. Calm people feel emotion, but do not obey it. Without obedience, hooks fail. Manipulators lose leverage. When leverage disappears, power shifts. Calm becomes a form of defense. Defense without aggression preserves energy. Preserved energy strengthens position. Calm people remain free where others are pulled. Another advantage is endurance. Philosophy teaches that emotional reactions exhaust the nervous system. Calm conserves energy. Over time, this conservation becomes resilience. Calm people last longer in conflict, pressure, and uncertainty. While others burn out emotionally, calm people remain steady. Steadiness over time wins battles that intensity cannot. Endurance is an invisible advantage that reveals itself only in the long run. Calm also sharpens listening. Philosophy teaches that true listening requires silence. Calm people listen fully because they are not preoccupied with reacting. Listening reveals intent, weakness, and opportunity. Others talk themselves into disadvantage, while calm people absorb information. Information is power. Power used quietly is advantage. Calm people often know more than they say. This asymmetry favors them. Calm people maintain dignity. Philosophy teaches that dignity commands respect without demand. Emotional outbursts erode dignity, even when justified. Calm behavior preserves it. Dignity elevates presence. Elevated presence shifts dynamics subtly. Others adjust behavior around calm individuals. They lower tone, choose words carefully, and hesitate before provoking. This behavioral adjustment is advantage earned without confrontation. Another advantage of calm is flexibility. Philosophy teaches that rigidity breaks under pressure. Emotional people cling to positions because emotion locks them in. Calm people adapt. Adaptability allows strategic movement. They can change course without ego resistance. This fluidity prevents stagnation. Flexibility outperforms force in complex environments. Calm enables flexibility by reducing attachment. Calm people also recover faster. Philosophy teaches that recovery speed determines progress. Emotional reactions create lingering mental noise replay, regret, rumination. Calm responses leave little residue. The mind resets quickly. Quick recovery allows continuous forward motion. While others are stuck processing emotion, calm people move on. Momentum accumulates. Accumulated momentum becomes advantage. Calm enhances intuition. Philosophy teaches that intuition speaks in quiet minds. Emotional noise drowns subtle signals. Calm creates inner silence where intuition emerges. This intuition guides timing, words, and decisions accurately. Accuracy saves effort. Saved effort compounds. Calm people often act at the right moment without knowing why. That why is clarity. Clarity is advantage. Calm also neutralizes conflict. Philosophy teaches that conflict requires mutual engagement. Calm withdraws engagement. Without engagement, conflict collapses. The calm person remains unharmed while others expend energy. This asymmetry favors the calm. They win by not fighting. Winning without fighting is the highest form of advantage. Another advantage is self-trust. Philosophy teaches that self-trust grows when behavior aligns with values. Calm responses reflect alignment. Each calm choice reinforces confidence. Confidence stabilizes presence. Stable presence affects how others perceive and treat you. People sense inner certainty. They defer to it. Deference creates advantage naturally. Calm people also project authority. Philosophy teaches that authority is not volume, but certainty. Calm communication feels grounded. Grounded voices carry weight. Weight influences outcomes. Emotional voices scatter attention. Calm voices focus it. Focus directs energy. Directed energy wins. Calm allows long-term thinking. Philosophy teaches that emotion prioritizes immediate relief. Calm considers future consequence. Future-oriented thinking avoids traps. Avoiding traps preserves progress. Progress sustained over time surpasses short-term wins. Calm people build trajectories, not moments. Trajectories dominate outcomes. Ultimately, calm people always have the advantage because they are not controlled by the moment. Philosophy teaches that whoever controls themselves controls their destiny. Calm is self-control embodied. While others are pulled by circumstance, calm people move by choice. Choice creates freedom. Freedom creates power. And power exercised calmly becomes unstoppable advantage. Chapter 8. Detaching from drama and mental noise. Detaching from drama begins with recognizing that most noise is optional. Philosophy teaches that not everything that reaches your awareness deserves your energy. Drama survives by convincing you that it is urgent, personal, and unavoidable. Mental noise works the same way. Thoughts demand attention, emotions demand reaction, opinions demand response. But demand does not equal necessity. Detachment starts the moment you realize you are not obligated to engage. You can witness without participating. This choice restores sovereignty. Sovereignty over attention is the foundation of peace. Where attention goes, energy follows. Drama feeds on energy. Remove energy, and drama starves. Mental noise thrives on identification. Philosophy teaches that suffering increases when you identify with every thought. Thoughts pass constantly, but when you claim them as truth, they gain power. Detachment means allowing thoughts to exist without ownership. You hear them without obeying them. This creates distance. Distance weakens intensity. Intensity fuels chaos. Calm distance dissolves it. You are not your thoughts. You are the space in which they appear. Once this is understood, mental noise loses authority. Authority shifts inward. Drama also persists because it offers stimulation. Philosophy teaches that the mind addicted to stimulation resists stillness. Drama provides excitement, even when painful. Detachment requires tolerating boredom, silence, and simplicity. This tolerance is strength. When stimulation loses appeal, clarity returns. Clarity reveals what matters. What matters is usually quieter than drama. Detachment refines priorities by filtering excess. Another aspect of detachment is reducing emotional exposure. Philosophy teaches that constant emotional input overwhelms the nervous system. Conversations, media, conflicts all demand reaction. Detachment does not mean isolation, it means selectivity. You choose what enters your mental space. Selectivity preserves energy. Preserved energy improves focus. Focus strengthens effectiveness. Effectiveness reduces chaos. Detachment is not avoidance, it is regulation. Mental noise also comes from unresolved emotion. Philosophy teaches that unprocessed feelings replay themselves. Detachment requires processing, not suppression. You feel emotions fully, then release them. Holding on to emotion creates loops. Loops create noise. Processing ends loops. Ending loops restores quiet. Quiet improves judgment. Judgment guides wise action. Detachment is an active process, not passive neglect. Drama thrives on opinion. Philosophy teaches that opinions multiply suffering. Everyone has one, and most add little value. Detachment means not internalizing others' judgments. Their views reflect their inner state, not your worth. When you stop absorbing external opinions, inner space expands. Expanded space brings peace. Peace improves resilience. Resilience reduces reactivity. Detachment protects self-respect. Another form of detachment is boundary clarity. Philosophy teaches that boundaries prevent emotional leakage. When boundaries are weak, drama enters easily. Strengthening boundaries limits access. You decide who has influence. Influence determines impact. Reduced impact reduces noise. Boundaries create quiet by design. Quiet enables strength. Mental noise also feeds on urgency. Philosophy teaches that urgency distorts reality. Everything feels immediate and overwhelming. Detachment slows internal tempo. Slowing allows evaluation. Evaluation reveals that most issues resolve without involvement. Non-involvement is not indifference, it is wisdom. Wisdom recognizes when action is unnecessary. Unnecessary action creates unnecessary noise. Drama also survives through repetition. Philosophy teaches that repetition strengthens patterns. Replaying conversations, arguments, and imagined scenarios keeps drama alive. Detachment interrupts repetition. You notice the loop and refuse to continue it. Refusal breaks habit. Breaking habit restores attention. Attention reclaimed becomes power. Power quiets the mind. Detachment also improves emotional independence. Philosophy teaches that relying on others' reactions for stability creates fragility. When you detach, your emotional state becomes self-generated. Self-generated calm is durable. Durable calm withstands external fluctuation. This independence weakens drama's grip. Drama cannot control what it cannot influence. Mental noise decreases when purpose clarifies. Philosophy teaches that unclear purpose invites distraction. When direction is strong, noise fades naturally. You ignore what does not align. Alignment filters input automatically. This filtering reduces mental clutter. Reduced clutter increases presence. Presence strengthens decision-making. Detachment aligns attention with intention. Drama often disguises itself as importance. Philosophy teaches that importance is often inflated. Detachment shrinks exaggerated significance back to proportion. Proportion restores balance. Balance stabilizes emotion. Stability creates clarity. Detachment recalibrates perception. Another benefit of detachment is recovery speed. Philosophy teaches that lingering emotion slows recovery. Detachment allows quicker emotional reset. Quick reset preserves momentum. Momentum sustains progress. Progress reduces frustration. Frustration feeds drama. Detachment breaks this cycle. Detachment also sharpens awareness. Philosophy teaches that noise obscures insight. Quiet reveals patterns. Patterns reveal truth. Truth guides action. Action aligned with truth requires less force. Less force reduces resistance. Detachment simplifies life without effort. Mental noise weakens intuition. Philosophy teaches that intuition requires silence. Detachment creates that silence. In silence, subtle guidance emerges. Guidance improves timing. Timing enhances effectiveness. Effectiveness reduces stress. Stress fuels noise. Detachment restores natural rhythm. Ultimately, detaching from drama and mental noise means reclaiming attention. Philosophy teaches that attention is life's currency. Where you spend it defines your experience. When you withdraw attention from chaos, calm grows. Calm strengthens awareness. Awareness governs behavior. Governed behavior creates freedom. Freedom is peace in motion. Chapter 9. How Self-Control Sharpens Decision-Making. Self-control sharpens decision-making because it removes urgency from choice. Philosophy teaches that poor decisions are rarely made because of lack of intelligence. They are made because emotion rushes the process. When emotion dominates, the mind seeks relief, not accuracy. Self-control slows this rush. It creates space between impulse and action. In that space, clarity forms. Clarity allows you to see options, consequences, and long-term impact. Decisions made without urgency are rarely regretted. Urgency narrows vision. Self-control widens it. The wider the vision, the sharper the decision. Self-control strengthens decision-making by stabilizing perception. Philosophy teaches that perception is distorted under emotional pressure. Anger exaggerates threats. Fear magnifies risk. Excitement hides danger. Self-control neutralizes these distortions. When emotions are regulated, reality appears more accurately. Accurate perception leads to accurate judgment. Judgment determines outcome. A calm mind evaluates facts instead of stories. Stories mislead. Facts guide. Self-control keeps the mind grounded in what is real, not what is felt. This grounding is the foundation of intelligent choice. Another way self-control sharpens decisions is by protecting timing. Philosophy teaches that timing often matters more than content. A correct decision made at the wrong moment becomes a mistake. Emotional minds act too soon. Self-controlled minds wait. Waiting allows more information to surface. More information improves precision. Precision improves outcome. Self-control does not delay indefinitely. It delays deliberately. This deliberate timing creates advantage. Those who act later but wiser often outperform those who act first, but emotionally. Self-control also reduces cognitive noise. Philosophy teaches that mental clutter interferes with reasoning. When emotions surge, thoughts multiply. Conflicting impulses compete for attention. This internal noise weakens focus. Self-control quiets the noise. Quiet focus allows deeper analysis. Deeper analysis reveals subtle consequences others miss. Missing subtle consequences is how poor decisions compound. Self-control sharpens focus by conserving mental energy. Conserved energy strengthens thinking. Decision-making improves when ego is regulated. Philosophy teaches that ego distorts judgment by prioritizing image over truth. Emotional reactions often protect pride, not progress. Self-control weakens ego's grip. When ego quiets, honesty emerges. Honest evaluation leads to better decisions. You choose what works, not what flatters you. This humility strengthens outcomes. Ego-driven decisions feel powerful, but fail silently later. Self-controlled decisions feel modest, but endure. Self-control also sharpens decision-making by strengthening consistency. Philosophy teaches that consistent standards improve reliability. Emotional decision-making fluctuates. One day bold, next day fearful. This inconsistency creates confusion. Self-control stabilizes standards. Stable standards guide choices regardless of mood. When decisions align with principles rather than emotion, results become predictable. Predictability is strength. It allows planning. Planning reduces risk. Reduced risk improves confidence. Confidence enhances execution. Another advantage of self-control is reduced regret. Philosophy teaches that regret clouds future judgment. Decisions made impulsively often require repair apologies, explanations, reversals. These repairs drain energy and attention. Self-control prevents many of these situations. Decisions made with restraint align more closely with values. Alignment reduces inner conflict. Reduced conflict improves mental clarity for future decisions. Clarity compounds over time. Self-control improves decision-making by enhancing patience. Philosophy teaches that patience allows complexity to unfold. Many decisions appear simple at first glance, but reveal layers over time. Emotional minds decide before layers appear. Patient minds wait. Waiting reveals patterns, motives, and risks. This deeper understanding informs better choices. Patience is not passive. It is observant. Observation sharpens judgment. Self-control also reduces external influence. Philosophy teaches that emotional people are easier to manipulate. Urgency, fear, and desire make the mind pliable. Self-control creates resistance. Resistance preserves autonomy. Autonomous decision-making reflects true priorities rather than external pressure. Decisions made freely are stronger than those made reactively. Strength in choice leads to stability in outcome. Another way self-control sharpens decisions is through emotional recovery. Philosophy teaches that lingering emotion disrupts reasoning. After emotional events, the mind needs time to reset. Self-control accelerates this recovery by preventing emotional overexpression. Faster recovery restores thinking capacity. Restored capacity improves decision quality. Those who recover quickly regain advantage sooner. Self-control sharpens decision-making by strengthening foresight. Philosophy teaches that foresight requires detachment from immediate gratification. Emotional minds prioritize now. Self-controlled minds consider later. Later often matters more. Considering future consequences prevents costly errors. Prevention is invisible success. Self-control practices prevention consistently. Decision-making also improves because self-control refines language. Philosophy teaches that how you frame a situation determines how you act. Emotional framing exaggerates stakes. Self-control reframes neutrally. Neutral framing reduces pressure. Reduced pressure improves judgment. The mind thinks best when not threatened. Self-control removes the sense of threat. Self-control enhances intuition. Philosophy teaches that intuition emerges in calm awareness. Emotional turbulence blocks subtle insight. When calm, intuitive signals surface: timing, direction, restraint. These signals guide decisions beyond logic. Self-control creates the inner silence where intuition operates. Intuition complements reason. Together, they sharpen choice. Another benefit is resilience to decision fatigue. Philosophy teaches that impulsive reactions drain willpower. Self-control conserves it. Conserved willpower supports sustained decision-making quality. Quality maintained over time outperforms bursts of intensity. Consistency beats brilliance. Self-control supports consistency. Self-control also aligns decisions with identity. Philosophy teaches that strong identity simplifies choice. When you know who you are, many options disappear. Emotional fluctuation weakens identity. Self-control stabilizes it. Stable identity guides behavior effortlessly. Decisions become natural rather than forced. This natural alignment sharpens execution. Ultimately, self-control sharpens decision-making because it restores authorship. Philosophy teaches that the best decisions come from those who are not ruled by impulse. When you control yourself, you control your direction. Direction defines destiny. Decisions made from calm awareness shape a life of clarity, strength, and quiet power. Chapter 10. Letting others reveal themselves while you stay silent. Letting others reveal themselves while you stay silent begins with understanding that most people speak to express themselves, not to be understood. Philosophy teaches that when someone talks freely, without interruption or resistance, they eventually expose their true motives, insecurities, and intentions. Silence creates space. In that space, people fill the void with who they really are. When you react, argue, or correct, you interrupt this process. You shape the interaction. When you stay silent, you remove influence. What remains is authenticity. Silence is not passivity. It is strategic restraint. It allows truth to surface without force. Silence shifts power dynamics immediately. Philosophy teaches that the one who speaks more often gives away information. Information is leverage. When you stay silent, you retain leverage. Others reveal opinions, emotional triggers, and priorities while you remain unreadable. This imbalance creates advantage. You see them clearly while they see little of you. Clarity combined with privacy is power. Silence turns observation into strength. People reveal themselves most when they feel unopposed. Philosophy teaches that resistance creates performance. When challenged, people mask themselves. They become defensive or persuasive. Silence removes the need to perform. Without opposition, people relax their guard. In that relaxed state, patterns emerge. Tone shifts. Inconsistencies appear. intent becomes visible. Silence invites honesty unintentionally. Staying silent also neutralizes manipulation. Philosophy teaches that manipulators rely on reaction. They test boundaries through provocation, exaggeration, or emotional hooks. When you stay silent, the test fails. Without reaction, manipulation has no feedback. The manipulator often escalates, revealing tactics more clearly. What was subtle becomes obvious. Silence exposes strategy without confrontation. Silence also protects you from self-exposure. Philosophy teaches that emotional responses reveal inner states. When you react, you show where you are sensitive. Silence conceals vulnerability. Concealment preserves dignity. Dignity commands respect. While others expose themselves through impulse, you remain composed. Composure elevates presence. Presence shifts authority. Another advantage of silence is accuracy. Philosophy teaches that premature speech distorts understanding. When you speak too soon, you act on incomplete information. Silence allows the full picture to form. People often contradict themselves when allowed to continue speaking. These contradictions reveal truth. Silence catches what speech misses. Listening is an active discipline. It sharpens perception. Silence also reduces conflict. Philosophy teaches that conflict escalates through engagement. When you refuse to engage emotionally, conflict loses momentum. Others may grow louder or more emotional, further exposing themselves. Your silence remains steady. The contrast is clear. Observers notice who is grounded and who is reactive. Respect shifts naturally toward calm. Staying silent trains patience. Philosophy teaches that patience is strength over time. Silence requires resisting the urge to correct, defend, or dominate. Each time you resist, self-control strengthens. Self-control becomes habit. Habit becomes character. Character shapes outcomes. Silence builds inner strength while revealing outer truth. Silence also creates psychological pressure. Philosophy teaches that unanswered behavior unsettles the ego. People expect response. When none comes, they fill the gap with speculation. They often over-explain, justify, or expose insecurity. Silence becomes a mirror. What they project reveals them. You gain insight without effort. Another effect of silence is emotional clarity. Philosophy teaches that speaking during emotion intensifies it. Silence allows emotion to pass. When emotion passes, judgment improves. Improved judgment prevents regret. Silence protects you from saying what cannot be taken back. Words spoken in calm carry weight. Words spoken in emotion carry consequence. Silence also establishes boundaries. Philosophy teaches that boundaries are enforced through behavior, not explanation. When you do not respond to disrespect, you signal standards. You do not negotiate dignity. People either adjust or distance themselves. Both outcomes protect you. Silence enforces boundaries cleanly. Staying silent allows you to choose timing. Philosophy teaches that timing amplifies impact. When you finally speak, your words land with precision. Others listen because you do not speak often. Scarcity increases value. Silence makes speech meaningful. Meaningful speech influences outcomes. Silence also fosters self-trust. Philosophy teaches that restraint strengthens confidence. Each moment you remain silent, despite provocation, proves your control. This proof accumulates. Your presence changes. Others feel it. Confidence without display is powerful. Power without display is respected. Letting others reveal themselves also builds wisdom. Philosophy teaches that understanding human nature requires observation. Observation requires quiet. Silence creates that quiet. Over time, you recognize patterns of behavior. Patterns guide strategy. Strategy replaces reaction. Reaction fades. Wisdom grows. Silence protects mental energy. Philosophy teaches that unnecessary engagement drains focus. By staying silent, you conserve energy for what matters. Conserved energy sharpens purpose. Purpose directs action. Directed action produces results. Silence simplifies life by removing unnecessary struggle. Ultimately, letting others reveal themselves while you stay silent means choosing awareness over ego. Philosophy teaches that ego wants to be heard, awareness wants to see. Seeing is power. When you see clearly and remain composed, you move through the world untouched by manipulation, drama, or noise. Silence becomes not emptiness, but mastery. Chapter 11. Training the mind to pause instead of explode. Training the mind to pause instead of explode begins with understanding that explosion is not strength, but overflow. Philosophy teaches that emotional outbursts happen when inner pressure has nowhere to go. The mind accumulates stress, resentment, fear, and unmet needs until a small trigger releases everything at once. The pause is the release valve. Without it, pressure forces action. Training the pause means creating space before pressure becomes behavior. This space is not created in the moment of provocation alone. It is built daily through awareness. Pausing is a skill, not a personality trait. Skills can be trained. Explosion is untrained emotion. Pause is practiced mastery. The mind explodes because it feels threatened. Philosophy teaches that perceived threat activates survival responses. The body prepares to fight, defend, or dominate. In that state, logic shuts down. Training the pause means recognizing threat as perception, not fact. Most provocations are not life-threatening, but the nervous system reacts as if they are. Awareness interrupts this false alarm. When you notice the surge instead of obeying it, the reaction weakens. Each noticed surge trains restraint. Restraint builds control. Control restores choice. Pausing begins in the body. Philosophy teaches that the mind follows the body's state. When the body is tense, the mind accelerates. Training the pause requires learning to feel physical sensation without reacting. Tight chest, clenched jaw, shallow breath. These are signals, not commands. When you notice them, you reclaim agency. Slow breathing slows thought. Slowed thought allows reflection. Reflection prevents explosion. The pause lives first in the body, then in the mind. The pause also requires changing your relationship with emotion. Philosophy teaches that emotions are temporary movements, not orders. Explosion happens when emotion is treated as instruction. Pause happens when emotion is treated as information. Information can be analyzed. Instructions must be followed. This reframing weakens emotional authority. You still feel anger, but you do not serve it. Feeling without serving is freedom. Freedom grows with practice. Training the pause means tolerating discomfort. Philosophy teaches that reaction seeks relief. Pausing feels uncomfortable because it delays release. This delay trains endurance. Endurance is strength stretched over time. Each time you endure the urge to explode without acting, tolerance increases. What once felt unbearable becomes manageable. Manageable becomes neutral. Over time, the urge loses urgency. The pause becomes natural. Another key element is attention training. Philosophy teaches that where attention goes, emotion follows. Explosive minds fixate on provocation. Training the pause requires redirecting attention inward. Instead of focusing on the other person, you focus on breath, posture, or sensation. This shift breaks the stimulus-response chain. The mind cannot explode while observing calmly. Observation dissolves momentum. The pause also grows through self-talk. Philosophy teaches that inner language amplifies emotion. Thoughts like, "I can't tolerate this," accelerate explosion. Replacing them with, "I can pause," changes outcome. Language shapes possibility. When the mind believes pausing is possible, it becomes achievable. Belief guides behavior. Behavior reinforces belief. The cycle strengthens restraint. Pausing also protects dignity. Philosophy teaches that dignity is preserved through composure. Explosions often lead to regret and self-disgust. The pause prevents self-betrayal. Acting in alignment with values strengthens identity. Identity reinforced becomes stable. Stability reduces future reactivity. The pause builds character quietly. Training the pause requires repetition under pressure. Philosophy teaches that mastery forms through exposure. You cannot train calm only in calm conditions. Provocation is the gym. Each moment of restraint strengthens the mental muscle. Failure is part of training. Each attempt matters. Progress is cumulative. Over time, the pause activates automatically. The pause also changes how others treat you. Philosophy teaches that behavior teaches boundaries. When you pause instead of exploding, you stop rewarding provocation. Others learn that chaos does not move you. They either adjust or withdraw. Both outcomes restore peace. The pause protects external environment by stabilizing internal one. Pausing enhances intelligence. Philosophy teaches that intelligence requires time. Explosions eliminate time. Pauses create it. In that time, you see nuance, intent, and consequence. Decisions improve. Words become measured. Silence becomes an option. Options are power. The pause also conserves energy. Philosophy teaches that emotional explosions are exhausting. Pausing costs less internally. Conserved energy increases resilience. Resilience supports consistency. Consistency builds confidence. Confidence reduces reactivity. The cycle strengthens itself. Training the pause also heals emotional wounds. Philosophy teaches that unexpressed emotion seeks release. When you pause and later process emotion consciously, wounds integrate. Integrated emotion no longer explodes. Healing reduces triggers. Reduced triggers simplify life. The pause teaches patience with self. Philosophy teaches that harsh self-judgment fuels explosion. Compassion softens inner tension. Softened tension reduces pressure. Reduced pressure makes pausing easier. Gentleness strengthens restraint more than force. Pausing also sharpens intuition. Philosophy teaches that intuition speaks in quiet spaces. Explosions drown it. Pauses invite it. Intuition guides action precisely. Precision reduces conflict. Reduced conflict reinforces calm. Ultimately, training the mind to pause instead of explode is reclaiming sovereignty. Philosophy teaches that freedom is self-rule. When no emotion can force action, you are free. The pause is not weakness. It is the highest discipline. It turns chaos into clarity and reaction into choice. Chapter 12. Becoming unshakable in any situation. Becoming unshakable in any situation begins with understanding that stability is an internal skill, not an external condition. Philosophy teaches that most people try to control circumstances to feel secure, but circumstances are always changing. True unshakability comes from anchoring yourself internally. When your sense of balance depends on silence, approval, or comfort, it collapses easily. When it depends on awareness, it remains intact. An unshakable person is not untouched by emotion. They are untouched by loss of control. They feel fully, but they do not fracture. This distinction is crucial. Stability is not numbness. It is presence that remains steady while waves pass through. Unshakeability grows when you stop personalizing events. Philosophy teaches that most disturbances are not about you, even when they feel like they are. People act from their own fears, habits, and limitations. When you internalize their behavior, you hand them power. Detachment restores balance. You witness without absorbing. This witnessing creates emotional distance. Distance weakens impact. Weak impact preserves calm. Calm becomes default. Over time, fewer things shake you because fewer things reach the core. Another foundation of unshakeability is emotional literacy. Philosophy teaches that naming emotion reduces its power. When you can identify what you feel, anger, fear, disappointment without judgment, emotion loses intensity. Confusion fuels instability. Clarity restores control. By understanding your emotional patterns, you anticipate them. Anticipation allows preparation. Prepared minds are difficult to destabilize. What surprises you shakes you. What you expect does not. Unshakable people master the pause. Philosophy teaches that reaction is the enemy of stability. When you pause, you interrupt emotional momentum. Momentum is what shakes people. Interrupting it prevents collapse. This pause becomes instinctive through practice. Each calm response reinforces identity. Identity becomes stable. Stability reduces future reactivity. The cycle strengthens itself. Another element of unshakeability is acceptance of discomfort. Philosophy teaches that resistance intensifies suffering. When you accept that discomfort is part of life, it loses its threat. Threat is what shakes the mind. Acceptance removes threat. You no longer panic when things feel uncomfortable. Panic is destabilizing. Acceptance grounds you. Grounded minds remain steady under pressure. Unshakeability also requires letting go of control over outcomes. Philosophy teaches that attachment to outcome creates fear. Fear creates instability. When you focus on effort instead of result, pressure decreases. Reduced pressure improves clarity. Clear minds adapt quickly. Adaptation prevents collapse. You become flexible rather than rigid. Flexibility is strength. Another key is self-trust. Philosophy teaches that trust in your ability to handle whatever arises creates calm. When you trust yourself, uncertainty loses power. You stop needing guarantees. Life rarely provides them anyway. Trust replaces certainty. Trust stabilizes emotion. Emotion stabilized becomes resilience. Resilience is unshakeability practiced over time. Unshakable people regulate input. Philosophy teaches that constant exposure to noise destabilizes the mind. Information overload, conflict, and comparison weaken attention. Reducing unnecessary input strengthens clarity. Clarity supports calm. Calm resists disturbance. Selective attention preserves balance. Balance sustains strength. Unshakeability also grows through consistency of values. Philosophy teaches that clear values simplify decisions. When you know what matters, distractions lose influence. Influence weakens. Inner direction strengthens. Strong direction stabilizes behavior. Behavior aligned with values creates inner peace. Peace resists chaos. Another component is humility. Philosophy teaches that humility removes ego-driven reactions. When ego loosens, insults lose sting. Praise loses grip. You remain centered regardless of external evaluation. Evaluation fluctuates. Centering does not. This inner neutrality creates emotional freedom. Freedom is unshakeability. Unshakable people recover quickly. Philosophy teaches that recovery speed matters more than avoidance. Disturbance happens. The difference is how fast you return to center. Quick recovery prevents spirals. Spirals shake identity. Recovery stabilizes it. Recovery is trained through awareness and compassion, not force. Unshakeability also requires presence. Philosophy teaches that presence anchors you in now. Anxiety lives in future. Regret lives in past. Presence removes both. When fully present, fewer things disturb you. Disturbance feeds on distraction. Presence dissolves it. Another factor is self-respect. Philosophy teaches that self-respect creates boundaries. Boundaries protect energy. Protected energy supports calm. Calm reinforces self-respect. The loop strengthens. Without self-respect, instability follows. With it, firmness emerges naturally. Unshakable people understand impermanence. Philosophy teaches that everything changes. Accepting this prevents clinging. Clinging creates fear. Fear destabilizes. Acceptance frees. Freedom stabilizes. You stop expecting permanence from temporary things. Unshakeability also comes from perspective. Philosophy teaches that zooming out reduces emotional intensity. Seeing situations as part of a larger journey shrinks their power. Shrunk problems cannot shake you. Perspective grounds emotion. Grounded emotion supports clarity. Ultimately, becoming unshakable in any situation means living from awareness instead of reaction. Philosophy teaches that awareness is the only stable ground. Everything else shifts. When awareness becomes your home, nothing can pull you out of yourself. You move through chaos without absorbing it. You remain steady not because life is calm, but because you are. In the end, the greatest control you will ever have is not over people, situations, or outcomes. It is over yourself. Every time you choose not to react, you take your power back. You stop feeding chaos, you stop giving energy to distractions, and you stop allowing the world to decide how you feel. Not reacting does not mean you are weak or passive. It means you are disciplined. It means you are aware. It means you understand that silence, when chosen intentionally, is one of the strongest responses available to you. While others expose themselves through emotion, you remain grounded, clear, and in control. Carry this truth with you. The person who reacts less sees more, thinks clearer, and moves smarter. When you master the pause, you master yourself. And when you master yourself, life no longer controls you. You control how you move through it.